Brice Wiggins, Senator Wiggins from District 52. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Paul. I just like to keep you on your toes.
You got me, man. I tell you, I'm sitting there.
Perez as well.
Brown jacket to brown jacket this morning, too. We're color coordinated.
That's right.
Appreciate that.
It's good. Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Let me finish this Brandon Presley thing here and put these into your earphones this morning. Here's the rest of his comments.
I'm at what once was the Pioneer Community Hospital in Newton. It used to employ over 200 people. Now it's shut down for good. No doctors roaming these halls. No nurses tending to patients. No ambulances outside. No cars in the parking lot. This is the reality that Tate Reeves has chosen to put us in.
I don't know what's your response to that.
Well, Paul, as you know, I'm from the coast, and I feel like I have a pretty good take of the people down there. They don't know who Brandon Presley is. I mean, I listen to that, and I appreciate where he's come from and all that, but that's he's got a hard time down on the coast, that's for sure.
Here's what, regardless of where he's from but just the issue itself, somewhere down the line, we're going to have to come to the face in the Come to Jesus meeting here that small towns have depleted as far as their tax base because of their population, and you're not going to have that movie theater and car dealership and hospital like you had 40 or 50 years ago. And pouring state dollars into that and thinking you're going to be back where you were with the same services, it's just not going to happen.
Look, I love our small towns, but to your point, it's not 40 years ago. And just look, you can look in the numbers. I served on the redistricting committee, and in Mississippi, the coast population increased by 20% over the decade. The Delta lost 20% of the population.
Yes.
It's going on in all these places, and I love small towns. I get it. But look, the coast, and that's where I'm from. I mean, we are an economic engine. We got these things going on. Madison and Rankin County, DeSoto County, there's a lot going on. And so, I think Governor Reeves and his State of the State hit on those things. We are a state to be reckoned with. And I think Governor Reeves hit on that. And when I heard Brandon Presley, and I didn't hear it all, but when I heard the clips and things, I'm like, reminds me of 1950s or 1940s. And, we, as Governor Reeves hit on his message last night, we are a force to be reckoned with in education. We are not the old Mississippi. We are the forward-thinking, conservative, Republican, making things happen Mississippi.
You start taking a look, and I was watching the map last night, and the map was to the left of us is Texas, over to the west of us, where people are tremendously moving there. Right. Then Florida to the east of us, the Carolinas, Tennessee. I mean, these people, we are right in the middle. We are not growing as fast as we should, but we are making inroads. And then you say, okay, why? Number one, we got to improve education. We're doing that. We have a low cost of living. We've done that. We've got to do something with our income tax. We're working on that.
Gave the largest tax elimination or tax decrease in the history. We gave the largest teacher pay raise. And to your point about Texas, I think a lot of us Mississippians look to Texas as a model, if you will. Mm-hmm. And also the numbers show that people are moving to the South. Look, the places that lost the most people were California, New York, Massachusetts, I think, and they're moving to the South. And so we need New Jersey. We need to be in the middle of that. Yeah. And so when the Democrats roll out somebody who wants to take us back to the 1940s, that doesn't, I know that it doesn't inspire the coast. Look, you got people, and I'm just going to highlight a couple things. You got people moving to Bay St. Louis. You got people moving to Pass Christian. That's where people want to live. And it's not just the coast. We've got things in DeSoto County and Madison and Rankin County as well. So we're on an upward trajectory, and I think we need to keep moving forward.
It's an indictment on myself and my family. We left the Delta. I mean, if you're going to do this, or anybody else who's left the Delta and made a life somewhere else, is that a condemnation of us because we decided there's not the opportunities there? Or anybody who graduates from school and decides to take a job somewhere else. case in point to what you're talking about. The Gulf Coast lost a tremendous population after Hurricane Katrina. But it was the opportunities and the leadership that brought them back there for their love of the life that you live along the coast. And you can say that about anything else. So the leadership has to be there, and I could use that for the Mississippi Delta as well.
Paul, I will, of course, agree with you. And the key word you said is leadership. Mm-hmm. And look, the coast could not have gotten back without the help of everybody in the state of Mississippi, without, yes, the federal government and getting us the money that we needed, and we understand that. But it's leadership. It's what you take and then develop with it. And I do think that there has been excellent leadership, particularly in the last 10 years down on the coast. Yep. And I guess I'll weigh into this. Look at the stuff going on in Jackson, and I was reading the comments from the mayor of Jackson.
Oh man!
And are you kidding
me?
You
want to get into that?
Well, I guess I opened that box, but
let's do
are you kidding me? You asked the state and the federal government for help, and then you're going to again take us back to the 1940s and 50s. I mean, you know what? I feel bad for my colleagues in the Senate who represent Jackson, because they're trying to help us, and Democrats and Republicans. And you got the mayor of Jackson equating us to plantation owners.
Apartheid.
Are you kidding me? Why should I vote for Jackson to help Jackson when the mayor's doing that? Look, and I understand. My district represents three municipalities, and so there's a level there. But you know what? What's the old saying, Paul? You don't bite the hand that feeds you. Well, you know what? No. It's about leadership, and the first sign of leadership is recognizing what your issues are and then trying to do better with them, not blasting the legislators and the people who are going to help you out.
I don't think, Brice, to be honest with you, I don't think that was the goal. I think instinctively what you do is you create fear and racism, and you hold on to your political party or your political job. You don't worry about anything else. For folks who don't know, there's an article in the AP by a guy named Michael Goldberg, who's, I think, by way of California with a stop in Mississippi for AP. Legislation that would create a separate court system run by unelected judges in part of Mississippi's capital city, racially motivated, according to Jackson Mayor Chokwe Antar Lumumba said yesterday. At a meeting, Lumumba excoriated several bills moving through the state legislature that would affect Jackson. He said the proposal by legislators, that would be you, Brice, part of it, outside the 80% black city to create a separate court system within its borders is colonialist and racist.
I got news for the mayor. So for the last 3 years, the state, by the legislature, has been funding judges and prosecutors additional to what we have at the request of Jacksonians. Okay, we've been doing that already because they couldn't get the crime under control. Paul, I literally have friends here in Jackson who came up to me and said, I want to thank y'all for what y'all have done with the Capitol Police. And I stood on the Senate floor and handled that original bill. And it's about safety. And, you know, you can go around and put your head in the sand and you can bite the hand that feeds you. And I say that because we wouldn't be here if Jackson wasn't in the situation. We want Jackson to be, I guess, standalone, if you will. But people need, just like going back to your point about Hurricane Katrina, the coast, we were devastated by the coast. But the state of Mississippi, the legislature, the federal government helped us out.
With request. Yeah, can you hold on to that?
Yeah,
I want you to continue when we come back.
You got me worked up, Paul.
That's okay. Well, here's what the Mr. Goldberg, and I'm sure he's quoted Mr. Lumumba the right way. He said, it reminds me of apartheid, said Lumumba. They're looking to colonize Jackson, not only in terms of putting their military force over Jackson, but also dictating who has province over decision-making. What he didn't tell you in the article is that Governor Reeves stepped in and in 24 hours provided more leadership than Lumumba did when he was sworn in the first time. And there are a lot of people in Jackson who are now, at least temporarily, with water that appreciate that, even though the racism had to be brought into it. More with Brice Wiggins coming up next. Hang on. I see. Finishing up the Brandon deal here.
All Tate Reeves has to do is lift his hand, take an ink pen, and sign on a line. Instead, he lacks the backbone, and he will sit on his hands while people lose their jobs, some lose their lives, and our hospitals close. And this hospital is just one example of how Tate Reeves and his policies are hurting our families.
Basically, what they're saying that we need to go on and he needs to sign the Medicaid expansion bill, and that would save everything.
Paul, I'm sorry. Yeah. I got news for Mr. Presley. So, as you know, I was Medicaid chairman. We had hearings.
Right.
Literally, this past fall, sat in there, the Hospital Association presented to us, and I asked the question, will Medicaid expansion alone save our hospitals? And they said no. So for Mr. Presley to stand out there and let the voters think that Medicaid expansion will save our hospitals is just patently false. And they know that. And so that's just what we're getting.
I think also, to be realistic about it, this hospital thing is much like the water system. It's been happening for a long time. If it was that easy to correct, then Ronnie Musgrove could have done it back when he was governor. But, I mean, it's not something that's been happening that just happened under Tate Reeves or Phil Bryant. Come on.
Look,
it's been going for a long time. Look, we talked about population. I just saw a stat yesterday in the homeowners deal here. Just the community where we live, which was, when we first moved here, was nothing. It is now larger than 85% of the cities in the state of Mississippi. That's just this area in Madison County. Just this one subdivision, just one association is larger than 85% of the towns in the state of Mississippi. So people are moving. And also, he mentioned a little bit earlier, or in that speech also, that we are losing population in the state. That's not true.
We stayed the same, and actually there was an undercount. It's documented that there was an undercount. So given
we actually gained population.
Yeah, I think for all practical purposes we stayed even, but we didn't lose population. And again, we didn't lose a congressional seat, which is usually how you look at it. Whereas places like California and New York and all lost seats. So, but I think we've started to fix the things. And I should say, people forget that the Democrats as a whole were in control of the legislature up until Speaker Gunn and Lieutenant Governor Reeves at the time came in. And we've been fixing a lot of things. I got good friends on the Democratic side of the aisle. We work together on different stuff. I'm proud of that. We've done different things, such as criminal justice reform and things like that. But we're all in this together for Mississippi. And, you want to talk about division, and that's what it seems like Brandon Presley's doing.
Well, Goldberg continues in his article that tweets you off. A special police force patrols the district to guard the state-owned buildings located in the area. The bill would also expand the district's boundaries to include a larger portion of the city, giving the Capitol Police a larger territory. And Lumumba says they're talking about a court system which the judges would not be elected by Jackson residents, and a police force that has no accountability. Capitol Police have been involved in several shootings, prompting some residents to suggest the force deploys overzealous tactics. Now, this is the words of this so-called journalist, Michael Goldberg, and I think it's his own opinion, and he's playing off of what went on in Memphis, Tennessee. I haven't seen anything where there were any unjustified shootings as far as the police that protect the capital area.
I haven't seen anything like that. I know the residents are happy. And look, let me mention one thing on that. It is time, I think next year at the earliest will be what's called judicial redistricting, and we're talking about Judiciary A, that's the chairmanship that I hold. We'll be looking at that, and I think maybe Hinds County in particular is up for some additional ones. That's why you look at these things every 10 years to adjust. But we've been funding prosecutors and judges in the capital city additional to what they already have because we had to get a hold of this.
Where do you think we stand as far as the postpartum bill in the legislative process itself? It's
coming out. The Senate is fully behind it, and let me reiterate: it's not Medicaid expansion. And I know what Governor Reeves said, but he didn't actually mention the postpartum, by the way. This is helping our mothers and our babies. Look, we have the highest infant mortality. We've done a number of things to try to address that. Every medical expert has said this is the right thing to do. And when you're in a position of leadership, like we were talking about, Paul, you have to make decisions. You have to put aside at times partisanship and do what's right for everybody. And I think everybody in this state wants us to do what's right for our children, and our mothers. And so Speaker Gunn has been the one to stand in the way, and that's a shame. But I think it's going to come out of the Senate again, and we're committed to it. And I think if us politicians, we like to read the polls, and that is liked by a lot of people in the state.
I was kind of blown away when Missy McGee was on with me yesterday.
Fine representative from the Pine Belt.
Very sharp lady, and she said it was only $6 to $7 million. I said,
right.
Is that correct?
Well,
as far as the cost of that?
I don't know that specific number, but let me say this.
I mean, that's nothing, to
correct.
be honest with you.
Well, when you're talking about saving babies and helping birth mothers, isn't that worth the price? I mean, look, we spend a lot on different things. To me, that makes sense.
The other thing, too, and we have to put this in the environment that it was 2022 and 2021 and 2020, to be honest with you, but there were a lot of things going on there, and that makes the success in our state even more plausible for the governor, to be honest with you.
Over these years, some days have been a little bit more challenging than others. But no matter what's thrown at Mississippi, I thank God each night that I have the chance to live and work and serve alongside of you. There is no place I would have rather weathered tornadoes, floods, hurricanes, or a global pandemic than right here in Mississippi.
So there you go. I think there's some merit to that too, because I mean he wasn't free coasting for the first years there. No,
I mean look. He came in as governor, and I'm sure I know part of his campaign was I'm going to bring COVID on, and I'm going to handle that. And he had to do that for the first 2.5 years of his administration, and it was not easy. I do think he hit on the topics about there were states that were closed down. We stayed open. I think history's going to prove us right. As he said, look, it's when you're in leadership or when you're governing, it's not all smooth. That's why you're in those positions to try to get us through it. And I think that he's stood tall on that and has worked to get us there. So it was not an easy first term coming in from that standpoint.
Brice is the senator from District 52 in Jackson County. I got to ask you about this too. This video bill from Jill Ford in the House. Are you aware of that?
I am not aware of that. No.
Should I be? Anybody who video records a law enforcement during a performance of their duty in a public space could face a fine or jail time if they've got to be more than 15 feet away under a bill before the legislature. It's House Bill from Jill Ford, 448. I'm not sure if it's going to make the deadline or not.
I don't know. I'm not sure about that. I do know this, and as Paul, as you know, I was a prosecutor for almost 10 years. I think body cameras have have changed law enforcement for the better for the citizens. And I think those are some of the best things because you see it right there. Now, things can be taken out of context, but you have transparency and in the court system, that is what's called discovery, and you have to provide that. And so it's part of what is presented to juries and presented in the court system, and it's important. So
but
I think
when
that's
somebody
good.
When a police officer stops somebody and pulls them out of the car, whatever it happens to be, and a bystander wants to get on TikTok or wants to get on Instagram and wants to push this thing, and they're within 4 or 5 feet or right in the face of a police officer, challenging them
when
they're trying to conduct it, is there necessary some type of buffer where they need to back up a certain amount of footage,
Well,
just to give the police officer a chance to do that job when they're no more than a bystander trying to film something.
Well, those laws already exist. Okay,
all right,
so
that's what we need to know.
Those laws
I'm
already
sure
exist.
The law enforcement officers know that.
Well, you'd have to ask them, but those laws already exist. So I'm not sure that we need another one from that standpoint.
Final segment coming up in a moment or two with Brice Wiggins right after this. Out of any of these contests from Biloxi, Michael Grimm, and he's a guy who can sing a song. Back with Brice Wiggins, Mississippi Senator District 52. And any bills that you've got coming up that may die in the deadline, which is later on this afternoon or this evening.
So the Judiciary A Committee is meeting its regular meeting at 2 today. One of the things there's two, I guess, big things that we focused on. As you may recall, during the fall, we had the Women and Children's and Family Committee that was put forward by Lieutenant Governor Hosemann in the wake of the Dobbs decisions, and we've looked at that. Senator Nicole Boyd chaired that. She's done a great job. And those bills, what we heard, have resulted in a number of bills, and those will be taken up in Judiciary A. A lot of them went through Judiciary A, and so looking forward to that. One thing that we did take up, that's something that I didn't really expect, but it is a big issue, and is garbage liens. Apparently, it is a big issue around the state, and we had the bill last year, and Senator Tyler McConn has done an excellent job. He's subcommittee chairman in Judiciary A of wrangling it. And in short, what it is people are garbage liens, counties and communities. Under current law, they end up putting liens for garbage pickup. And what's happening is people are buying property and they've had it for 10 years, and then a lien shows up. And it's causing a lot of problems. And we had meetings with land attorneys, with circuit I think circuit clerks, chancery clerks, and it was a big issue, something you don't think of, but it's been a big issue, and so we passed that out, and Senator McConn has done a good job, because think about it, you go to sell your house and you find that there's a lien for garbage on there, and costing a lot of money, so we had to fix that.
Are the homeowners notified of the lien?
Well, that was part of the problem. In the way things work in that field is you don't really find them until you go to sell things and it's on your property and stuff like that.
So this is tantamount to the other big bill I wanted to ask you about, the midwifery bill that Kevin Blackwell has up. South Haven Republican authored the Senate midwife bill.
Right.
I didn't know this one sneaking through there, but and in all seriousness, it sounds like it has a lot of merit.
It does, and I've gotten to actually know the midwives. A little bit of a side note: I have a bill to update the Medical Practice Act, and there was some language in there that actually it didn't apply. The current law is it didn't apply to midwives. Yeah. That got taken out. And
can you real quick, because I hate to push you, but we only got a couple of seconds here. But what is a midwife, and who is practicing it now?
Midwives are, in the traditional sense, are ones who help ladies give birth. Yeah. Okay, and the actual Midwives Association, if you will, are asking to be regulated so that because they provide this excellent service. What are the
qualifications to be a midwife?
I'd have to defer to them. But
are a lot of nurses midwives?
There are some nurse midwives, yes, but these are the ones that are pushing it are home midwives, and more people, from what I'm being told, ladies want to have birth at home, and so they help that. And so that bill has come out. I'm not sure where it is in the Senate, but I know it's probably got more traction this session than
apparently. But Democrat Hob Bryan says that he doubts he will bring the bill up for a vote in the committee. So if the committee chairman doesn't bring it out, doesn't have a good chance.
Well, but you know the old saying, Paul, it's not dead until it's dead. Isn't that right? You've been around long enough, haven't you?
What percentage of the bills that will die today do you think are dead?
Really, this today, yes, 2/3 die.
2/3, yeah.
And as I've said on your show before, the system is set up that way. So 2/3 of the bills will die. 3,000 bills have gotten filed. Probably by the end of the session, there'll be, because you include appropriations, you're going to have at least 3,500 bills. We don't need 3,500 laws.
That's it.
And
but
so
just a little 101 from your perspective for people who don't know this and just getting into political puberty. Is the way that this happens?
I don't know that I would have described it that way, but okay.
They attach the same bill to another bill, and that's the way that they just kind of like a virus. It stays alive, right?
Yeah. Speaking, that's correct. It's and there's rules that govern that.
Yeah.
Speaking of virus fungi, have you watched the new show on HBO called The Last of Us? Have you seen that?
Should I do that? Would I feel better going to bed
No.
And okay?
But it's in the equivalent of Walking Dead and stuff, but it's based on a video game. But apparently, it's all the hit, and it's a fungus / virus that's attacking people. So isn't that something you'd like to watch, Paul?
I'm losing hair fast enough. I don't need to do that.
I can identify, but that's okay.
It's always a pleasure, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
I think you guys gavel in at 10 o'clock this morning. The House gavels in at 2 o'clock
We do, but the Senate, actually, I got to run to the Capitol right now and attend committee meetings.
You got it. Thank you, man.
Thank you.